Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the sportsterproject.com YouTube channel. I'm Hersey, and in my last video we tore apart this Harley CV carburetor, and today I'm going to be putting it back together and rebuilding it. So after I tore it all apart, putting the ultrasonic cleaner for a bit, got all the gunk cleaned off of it, then rinsed it really good with just warm water, and then blew out all the passages with compressed air. So it's clean, should be in decent shape. We're gonna now put it all back together. I picked up this carburetor rebuild kit from All Balls Racing. I'll link that down in the description. I like these kits, they're very complete. Genuine James Gaskets makes a kit as well, but it's just the soft components, right? So the intake gaskets, the bowl gasket, the O-rings. It doesn't include jets and those kind of things. So the All Balls Racing kit, if you're doing a kind of a full rebuild, is a great kit. It also comes with a thumb adjustable mixture screw, which is nice. In the last video, you know, we drilled out the plug over the factory mixture screw, so that we could replace it with this. In the last video, I talked about there being a washer and an O-ring down in there, and in the video I wasn't able to get the O-ring out. Well, I got the O-ring fished out, so it's ready for the new one. So we'll start putting this back together. I'm going to start out, just put the needle jet in place. Drop it down in there, and it may take a little shaking to get it to kind of fall through. Take the pick, move it around a little bit just to make sure it falls down where it's supposed to be, and then it'll press the rest of the way in when we put the emulsion tube in. So that's going to be the next piece. We'll take the emulsion tube. I'm going to pull the needle jet back out. So something about the needle jet, there's a right way and a wrong way to put it in. So this hole with the lip should face towards the emulsion tube, and this side should face towards the needle. So let's drop it back in there, get it to at least start seating. And then we'll put the emulsion tube in. Oh. And once it seats right, you'll see it in the carb there, and then we just tighten the emulsion tube down. The emulsion tube, 8mm, and we just give it a little tighten. We don't have to crank it down really hard, just tighten so that it seats and that the needle jet is also seated in there. The All Balls Racing kit comes with an assortment of jets. This kit has, for the low speed jet or the pilot jet, it has a 42, a 45, and a 48. And for the main jet, it has a 175, 180, and 185. I'm going with a 48 and a 180. It may have to be changed up later, but that's where I'm kind of going to start when I start tuning things, just based on experience with other 1200 Sportsters that I have with a similar setup. So we'll put the pilot jet in again, just a small flathead screwdriver, and you want to just screw it in till it seats, and you don't want to you don't want to wrench down on it, right? You just want it, it's brass. If you do too hard on it, you can mess it up. So just to make it seat, same thing with the main jet. We'll screw that in and then just give it a little turn till it's seated good. So now we've got the pilot jet and the main jet in. The accelerator pump rod, going to put the new boot on there and get it worked into its slot. There's a hole on the back here. We just have to get it to seat in there. There we go. So that's the accelerator pump rod and the boot for that, the new boot for that. Now we'll get the float installed. So the kit includes a new float needle that slides on that piece, and I may have to move out of the camera frame just because of the way the light is. Nope, got it on there. So now the float needle is on the float, and then we'll position that back in the bowl and it seats where it goes. And then there's the pin holding the float in, and that just presses in through the float, through both sides, and there, that's in there. So now the float, when there's fuel in this, as the fuel pushes the float up, it pushes that needle into place that blocks off the fuel from coming into the bowl. So let's see here. I've got the bowl, and there's a gasket for the bowl. It fits over that accelerator pump nozzle, and you just work it down into that ridge so that it's all in place. You want to be careful to keep it in that ridge when you reassemble it, because otherwise you might pinch it and then it'll leak. So we're just going to turn the carburetor over. The accelerator pump nozzle goes through this hole here, and then we have to get the accelerator pump rod down through the hole in the float bowl. So I just turn it upside, work the rod where it goes, the float bowl, the accelerator nozzle where it goes, and then just work it until it seats. Now the All Balls racing kit comes with 4 replacement float bowl screws. So they just go in here. I'm not going to tighten them down all the way yet. I'm just going to get them started so things don't fall apart when I move around. And then we'll work to rebuild the accelerator pump. All right, so those are in there snug, but not tightened all the way down. So on the accelerator pump, you'll see this ridge here, and in the diaphragm for the accelerator pump, you'll see one side has a ridge, and the other one doesn't. The side with the ridge fits down in that ridge on the accelerator pump. The cover for the accelerator pump, there was an O-ring here. The kit comes with a new O-ring. Just place that in there, and then the kit also has a new spring that helps to return that accelerator pump to where it's supposed to be. Now, one of the things you just, whoops, there goes my spring. Just make sure you've got that lip in that ridge. Place the spring on. Oops. Of course, I dropped the little O-ring that goes in there. Gonna have to pause and find that. All right, so we're back after searching for that little O-ring. Gonna put it in there. Put the spring, actually I'm gonna do it this way. Put the spring in place and then place it, the accelerator pump cover on. There's 3 screws in that are also included with the kit. I'll just get those in place. Now that spring is putting a little bit of pressure on that diaphragm, so we'll just whoops, magnetic screwdriver. So with that spring putting a little pressure on the cover, you just got to kind of hold on to it to make sure it doesn't come off, and then you lose that little O-ring like I already kind of did, to just make sure that it all stays together like it's supposed to. So once I get these screws tightened down, and again, you want to tighten these down pretty good and snug, but you don't have to like really wrench on them. You just get them snug. Same thing with the bowl screws, which I'll go ahead and I'll get all them tightened. So there we go. And then the boot, you just make sure the boot comes down over the place in the bowl there, just so that stuff cannot get up in there. Now we'll just kind of test it, make sure everything's feels like it's working like it's supposed to, and we look good to go. So that's the bowl is assembled, the accelerator pump's assembled. So now we're going to put in the mixture screw. So the mixture screw, a couple of things. One, make sure that the needle on this is good and straight, didn't get bent. When you install the mixture screw, there's a pack of pieces. First the spring, then we put on the washer, and then the O-ring. Now for the mixture screw, we're going to, goes in the hole where we remove the plug. I'm going to slide it up in there. And as what we want to do this is we want to tighten this until it seats. You're going to get a little resistance from the spring as you get in there, but then you'll feel it when it finally just seats into place. And that's as tight as you want to do it. You don't want to go real tight. Once you feel it seat, the resistance from it seating in there, you want to stop because you don't want to mess up that needle. Now, as what I do, I'll usually mark it with just a scratch, so I can count the number of turns I take it out. And I'm going to take it out 2 turns. So we'll go 1, so the scratch back around, so that's 1, and then 2. And then that's where I'll have it for when I initially set it up. Now that'll get adjusted after I get it on the bike and start tuning on it. So now that we've got the bowl on, the accelerator pump on, and the mixture screw in, I'm going to move to putting the top together. So we've got this slide here. The All Balls kit comes with a new needle. We'll drop that down through the needle hole there. Then we'll replace that piece that sits on top. Now on these, this hole points towards the engine. So this is where the air cleaner goes. This is where it hooks up. It sits on the intake manifold towards the engine. It'll only fit in there one way. So as you put it in there, you just want to make sure that your needle fits down in the needle jet. And then very similar to putting the accelerator pump in, there is a little groove along the top of the carburetor, and you just want to make sure that you get that lip on the diaphragm into that groove. Okay, we have the spring, set the spring down in here, and then the top cover. Put the top cover back down on. Yep, and then we'll take the the All Balls kit comes with 3 replacement screws for the top. Why only 3? Well, because 1 screw is used to hold on the throttle cable brackets, and that screw is a little bit longer than the rest, so you just reuse that from reuse that screw from the carburetor. So get these in here and screw it down. And then we'll just check the slide in there to make sure it operates smoothly. And we look good there. Again, just tightening them up snug. So that's the top of the carburetor's rebuilt. So now is what we'll do is we'll put the bracket for the throttle cable back on, and it just slips down in there, and then you'll see there's a screw there, and then the screw that goes in the top that's a little longer than the regular top screws. Again, just good and snug, not crazy tight. It's the carburetor body is is pretty soft, so it's kind of easy to screw that up. Plus, you're working with brass, and that's kind of soft too, so it's easy to potentially mess that up if you try to go too tight on these things. So just check, make sure everything's operating, make sure the slide operates as it should. And then last but not least, the drain plug in the bottom of the carburetor. It has a O-ring that goes on it, and that O-ring actually slides up to the top, around the top between the threads and where you screw it in. So this goes in there like that. Flathead screwdriver. And just screw it in tight. So there's a hose that comes off the bottom of the carburetor that you can route out down, to underneath the motor or whatever, so that when you loosen this drain plug and it drains out, it'll drain out to wherever you want it to go. Or you can put it in, take the hose and put it in a bucket somewhere and drain it out that way. So that's it with getting the carburetor put back together. The final thing I've got to do is just get the choke cable in here, and it just goes in here, and I believe it's a 9/16 wrench, and then, which I'm not going to go through putting that on the video. You just tighten it in, you get it started, then you tighten it in. With this All Balls Racing kit, it did come with the intake manifold gaskets. So for this Sportster, I did have to find a new intake manifold, which I got off of eBay. So these gaskets go here, and this gasket goes here, and then this here sits between the carburetor and the intake. So they go up like this once this gets put back on the bike. So that's reassembling. Let me just take this choke cable out. That's reassembling the Harley CV carburetor with the All Balls Racing carburetor rebuild kit. Great kit. Again, if you don't need the jets and all the brass pieces, the Genuine James has a kit that's really just the O-rings and gaskets, float needle, and those kind of things. It doesn't include like the thumb screw, mixture jet. It doesn't include all the replacement hardware, which on a carburetor that's this old, it's been on a running bike for God knows how long, or sitting in a on a shelf somewhere how long, it's probably good to replace all these hard components as well. So there, she's ready to go. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video. Hopefully it was helpful to somebody. I've done a lot of these carburetor rebuilds. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It's a puzzle. I mean, the owner's manual or the repair manual does help some, kind of guiding you. But yeah, so please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, build, tinker, and ride.